This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East L.A. Music Stories. My guest is very special and unique in that this is actually my 60th East L.A. Music Stories episode, and she's the first East L.A. artist that went on to go into opera. Everybody else goes into R&B and Latin and rock and roll and country, but this is absolutely unique, and I'm really excited to do this. I will tell you a little bit about her career, and I'm going to use a little bit of her resume on her website. Susanna Guzman is a two-time Emmy Award winner, 2019 and 2021 for Live Special Event, and a four-time nominee. A celebrated mezzo-soprano, a native of East Los Angeles, she's one of the original associate artists of Los Angeles Opera and was named a 2024 Hispanic Legend of L.A. Opera. Woo. Ms. Guzman has performed as a principal soloist with leading orchestras and opera houses around the world, including the Metropolitan Opera, Washington National Opera, Dallas Opera, Opera de Genève, which is Geneva, right? I took French for one year, and San Diego Opera, among others. There's a lot more, but that just gives you an idea. And I knew what a mezzo-soprano is. It's between an alto and a soprano, but I looked up the definition so the
Oh my
viewers will
goodness.
understand. A mezzo-soprano is a female singing voice that falls between the soprano and alto voice types, known for its rich, darker timbre or timbre, and a primary range of comfort and resonance, tessitura, in the middle of the female vocal spectrum. Does that sound right?
That sounds absolutely right.
Cool. So, how are you, Susanna?
I am dangerously well.
I can feel the energy. It's blowing me back. My God, and you're looking great.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say how we met, and that is you're very good friends with my brother, Dan.
Mhm.
Now, how did you meet Dan in a few words?
Dan was responsible for casting me when he was a casting director. I was in The King and I with Yul Brenner at the Pantages. It was a sit-down show, and he cast me. And he told me that he was always looking for Latino surnames. And because I'm Guzman, he was optimistic. He was just hoping, he said, man, I saw Guzman, and then I just thought, I hope she can sing. So I was Amazon number two, which
Wow.
sounds, and I understudied Lady Tiang, which is was the king's wife, his head wife. And at that time, when I was doing this here in LA at the Pantages Theater, I did this for all of Act One and this for all of Act Two, and I guarded the king. But the beautiful thing was, Amazon number one was in front of me, then came me, then came Mr. Brenner. So I got to talk with him so much. And while we were doing the show, I was obviously really bored. So I entered a bunch of competitions and I kept winning opera contests that I would win. I must have entered six, and it was like discovering that I could run faster than anybody. It was like a hidden superpower that I never knew. And out of nowhere, I won first place in the Metropolitan Opera competition. So I had to ask Mr. Brenner because we were going to Broadway. And I asked him if I was going to get a chance to sing Lady Tiang, I wouldn't do the Met. And I said, Mr. Brenner, is there any chance? And he said, no.
Was he serious?
Yes. And I said, Mr. B, may I ask you why? You're too tall. Why are you asking me this? I said, Mr. Brenner, I just won first place in the Metropolitan Opera competition. But it's always been my dream to be on Broadway. And he said, Susanna, you have a place with us here as Amazon number two for as long as we run. But you're forgetting the Metropolitan Opera is on Broadway. So I went, I was not a national winner, but Mark, I am and have always been just a gal from East LA. And there was a man there. I was one of 20 national finalists. And there was a man there who came up to me and said, "You should have won. I want you to come work for me at Washington Opera." And I said, "I'd love to. I love Seattle."
It was DC, obviously.
It was DC, and he, thank God, thought I was hysterical. And I ended up working for Mr. Rizzo for 2 decades. I
Wow.
sang every season at Washington Opera, and I finally got to sing a role that I've done all over the world. But they hired me to sing Carmen, the title role in Carmen, at the Kennedy Center. And I can't tell you, Mark, so many amazing, amazing things because of that competition, because of Mr. Brenner, because of your brother. It's a domino effect.
So was that thing with my brother, was that one of your early jobs?
It was my first big
Wow.
production contract.
I
Yes,
didn't know that.
it was amazing. I mean, it was the thing that opened me up to the professional world, and it never stopped. I mean, it really hasn't. I'm still performing 43 years later. But one of the most beautiful things is that wherever I went, my connection to East LA stayed strong. We're from El Sereno, and our
Hmm.
zip code is 90032. And when I did Carmen at the Kennedy Center, they were doing an interview with me for the local news, arts, entertainment sections. And I said, I'd like to give a shout out to my homeboys in my zip code
All
90032.
right.
And
Yes.
the cameraman, he went, "I live on Portola." There we were in DC. And I ended up, this also might be kind of awesome, but because I think maybe you might have a connection here, but while I was doing Carmen, I got in what do you call it? Inducted into the Garfield High School Alumni Association. I went to Mission. But there was a gigantic contingent from Garfield, and my father's entire family went to Garfield. My mother went to Roosevelt, and they had this gigantic group of people there who had this big reception and inducted, and yeah, I want to say indicted, but I know that's the
Yes.
wrong word, into the
Um,
Garfield Honorary Alum Association.
Interestingly enough, just on Sunday, 3 days ago, whatever, what's today? Wednesday? Yeah, on
Yes.
Sunday, I went to the 100th anniversary celebration of Garfield High School.
Oh
At a
my
hotel, at a
goodness.
hotel in City of Industry, there was like maybe 1,000 people there. I mean, a lot of people. And it was amazing. I was sitting at a table with girls I went to junior high with.
Oh
A couple of them
yeah.
I hadn't seen since junior high.
What junior high was that?
Griffith.
Oh wow. My
Yeah.
my mom went to Hollenbeck and my dad went to Griffith. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's it right here. I have that. This is the thing, the Centennial Gala thing. I just
Oh
went. Yeah.
wow.
When I found out that I was in the Unified School District Hall of Fame,
Oh my goodness,
in,
but
tw- in,
congratulations.
and I didn't even know about it, but it's in the book.
Oh my
But
God.
anyway, getting back to Yul Brynner, we got a lot to cover here. Getting back to Yul Brynner, I remember my brother telling me a story. It had no, I don't think it had to do with that show, but I remember him telling me that when he was maybe it was he was a casting director, and Yul Brynner was sitting there at a table judging the people, I guess, that were auditioning, but that he was kind of strange. That it was one of these kind of stars that do not gaze at me, do not speak to me unless spoken
Oh
to.
yeah.
That kind of guy.
Oh yeah. And there were many interesting things about him. He had already been diagnosed with cancer at
Mm.
this point, but he wouldn't tell anybody that he had it, and no one was allowed to talk about it. And we didn't know. He painted every dressing room across the nation chocolate brown before he got there. That was his requirements because he found it soothing and it helped him take a nap between double shows. He had a white carpet that went from his dressing room to the foot of the
Oh
stairs.
my God.
No one could walk on it. No one could call him Yule. The closest he would give you permission to call him Mr. B, but no one could call him Yule. And we had to be in position. Amazon number 1 and 2 had to be in position by the time he reached the stairs. So when they called places, we had to already be ready to go on. And what we had to do, Janet in front of me and then me, we would stand there and he would hear him step on the bottom step, and Janet would take a breath and we would go, I have to do it backwards for you. We'd go like this. Good evening, Mr. Brenner, and then turn. And then he would say, good evening. And if he was in a good mood, he would say, did I ever tell you about when I was in the circus? He was a trapeze artist.
Wow.
And during rehearsals, to amuse himself, he would do these like one hand handstands on the throne. He was amazing, and he had these secrets. Like, he was a huge basketball fan, and if I remember correctly, specifically a Celtics fan. So if there was a game that night, he would say, if the Celtics were winning, he would say, wives in favor with king, 65. Wives out of favor with king, 14. And that would be the score.
Oh man. Yeah, I've heard a lot of celebrities are like that. Some rock stars, some TV stars. It's like, do not look into my eyes. And I'm always disappointed to hear that they can be that egotistical and weird, but
You know how I felt about Mr. Brenner? Because I have to tell you, I have many reasons to love him.
Mhm.
But one of the biggest ones is that I will never know that kind of notoriety that a star of the 1950s, 60s, and beyond, who is so easily recognizable. I have no idea the constant
Oh, yeah.
barrage of people they must be
Absolutely.
under. But one night, my mom came to see the show. She came to see me as Amazon number 2. She never saw me do Carmen. She saw me do Amazon number 2. And I said, Mr. Brenner, if I could trouble you, I'd like to introduce my mom. And he took both of her hands in his and kissed her on both
Ooh.
cheeks. And my little Latina mom, who's my skin color, turned the color of my dress. She just blushed and she couldn't stop like giggling, like, like, and he told her, Madam, your daughter has a beautiful voice. And she said, thank you so much. And she turned around and she was crying. And I just said, Mr. Brenner, thank you so much. It was one of the highlights of her life.
That's great.
So I love him for that. I love that he took time to talk to me about career options. I mean, should I stay in the show or go to the Met? And I also he thought I was funny, which is lovely. He liked my sense of humor. So we had these pointed hats that had these dog flap earrings on them. They looked
Mhm.
like dog ears. And on Halloween one year, instead of the hat, I put Carmen Miranda on my head.
Fruit.
Yes.
You have any pictures of that? You have any
He thought it was hysterical. There were different people who he had known in his career who I knew were excellent. And I remember one in particular. I turned around and said, Mr. Brenner, I have regards to you from Harper McKay. And I turned back really fast and he went, Harper. Harper McKay. And it was like I lit this fire of memories underneath him. And he went on this tangent. Harper was a wonderful pianist and music director, and they had worked together. And he just went on and on telling me stories when, meantime, all the wives and all the children were on stage bowed. And I said, Mr. Brenner, I think our cue has passed. And he said, I know they'll wait. And then Hopper one day said, they were on their knees for about a minute. It was so wonderful. It was just great. That was such a good way to start my career and with someone who believed in me in an area that I knew nothing about. I couldn't read music, Mark. I had been in a couple of shows. I got my equity card with Carmen Zapata
Mhm.
at the Bilingual Foundation of the Arts. Um, I did a couple of local things. I got to work at the Old Globe Theater. It was like I took all the things I loved. I loved Shakespeare. I loved Romeo and Juliet, the Franco Zeffirelli movie. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I was
Yes, it
so
was great.
Leonard Whiting and Olivia Hussey and
Yes.
Michael York and Milo O'Shea. And I don't know if it was just wings attaching to my prayers, but I knew one opera and it was called Amal and the Night Visitors. And it was written by Giancarlo Menotti. And when I got to the Kennedy Center for the Washington Opera, Frank Rizzo had cast me in Butterfly. I was Suzuki, the maid, and my next show was Inez in Trovatore, and it's a little part. Have a beautiful ensemble, and I'm on stage a lot, but it was a little part. And he said, I have a favor to ask you. Can I move you from this role to another role written by Giancarlo Menotti called Goya? It's based on the artist Goya. And Giancarlo wrote these two mezzo parts, one in Act One and one in Act Two. So you would play two characters. The only thing is we're taping it for PBS and it's going to start Placido. Any qualms about that? I said, are you kidding? To get a chance to work with the man who wrote the one opera I knew, Amal and the Night Visitors, and it turned out Franco Zeffirelli was a dear friend of Giancarlo's. So not only did I end up doing 5 different works of Giancarlo, I sang Amal and the Night Visitors for 5 years at the Kennedy Center. I got to sing La Traviata at the Metropolitan Opera, directed by Franco Zeffirelli,
Mhm.
and it was so scary and terrifying, but it was also just delicious. I felt like I could not believe that I was working in this magical world. And to make things even better, the opera Goya, I played the Duchess of Alba, and we ended up doing a recording. And I don't know if it was because he forgot my name, but he always, St. Bleecker Street, Amal, he directed those two. All these operas I did with him, he always called me the Duchess. So he would say, oh, hello there. Have you met the Duchess?
Sounds like Dracula.
He did, right?
So getting back to how we met, okay? So you were friends with my brother, and I probably met you as, "Hi, this is Susanna," and, introduced, and that was it once or twice, but I never really had spoken to you. I didn't know you at all, but I'd heard about you forever through my brother. But it wasn't until this year, maybe what, 5, 6 months ago, that I was doing a presentation at the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Music School. And I was about to do a little presentation. I had my guitar. What I wound up doing is I showed video clips, photographs, played some music, about my career, about my dad's career. And I saw you in the audience, and I said, "Uh-oh." And remember I said, there's an opera singer in the crowd, and I have to sing in front of an opera singer. Are you crazy? It was a tad intimidating. And I thought, oh my God, And then you said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." I went ahead and did my presentation. Then afterwards, we met and we talked, and I thought we hit it off pretty well. I mean, I could see your humor and your intelligence, and and it was really cool. And I thought, wow. And I said, hey, I've got this show, and I proposed this, and here we are a few months later. But do you remember that occasion?
Of course I do. I do also remember the first time I really met you was not a happy time. It was at
No.
your dad's funeral.
Whose?
Your dad's.
Oh, wow.
I sang Ave Maria at
At the church?
the
The one
church.
out here in Palm Springs?
That's right. That
I don't
is
remember
right.
that.
Because I had known your dad. I'm going to share something with you. See if it'll come up. Sharing's not turned on. Okay, I'm gonna just show you then. I know you
Okay.
can cut this part
Okay.
out, but your dad and I
I
won an
remember that.
award together, and there's all the people in the award. And keep going. Where am I? There I am. And there's your dad.
Hey, I have that poster.
It was a calendar called
Oh, yes, it's calendar.
Retratos de Éxito, and your dad was May and I was June. And
Oh,
it was
nice.
Palmieri, it was Tito Puente, John Baez, Jose Feliciano, Rose Fernandez, Celia Cruz. And we all got up on stage together, and
Wow.
and we all sang we sang Guantanamera with Celia leading, and it was such a beautiful night. But I think I told you this amazing memory. I had no idea who, what the connection was between Lalo and Dan. No idea. I had already done King and I already become like a Latino from East L.A. who did opera, kind of a unique sort of thing. And as we came to the Milford Plaza in New York, your dad was sitting on a couch. And I walked in the building with my son, and he just walked straight up to your father and climbed in his lap and fell asleep. It was so beautiful.
My
And
dad had a special way with children, and partly
he
because he was kind of a child that kind of never grew up. He had that innocence and that childlike quality till the end.
Mark,
And
he
kids
was
loved him. He'd be on the floor with them.
it was he was a magnet. And my
Yeah.
son just went straight. My son had never met him. And I was saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm looking your dad in the face. And I looked up and there's Dan. I went, oh my God, Dan, what are you doing here? And he went, duh, and points to his dad. Your dad. Isn't that, and that's how
Right.
I put two and two together.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because it's the same thing with me. I never mention it, so people find out later, you know. Generally, I just don't bring it up. But
Well,
yeah.
it was wonderful, and that was a very special evening to be with all these
Oh my
amazing. It was
God.
like the Buena Vista Social Club in person, in the
Hmm.
original, the OG, all these
Hmm.
amazing people. And it
That's
turns
impressive.
out that my family lived in Boyle Heights, and your dad and his band would come over and continue to play in their little house, and after the club was closed, it was a lovely, just the neighbors would all join everybody there. And it was a beautiful, everybody knew him. Everybody knew everyone in the band. Your dad was an icon of our neighborhood, and people just loved
Yep,
him.
yep, yep. So let's go all the way back
Okay.
to growing up in East LA in El Sereno.
That's
And
great.
what were your early musical, preferences? Like when you were kids, say, and then getting into your teenage years, what kind of music were you listening to?
Well, as most kids, they listen to the music of their parents. And my dad was a huge Trio Los Ponchos fan and Nat King Cole. My mom loved Billy Eckstine, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all the recording artists of their day. But what they did for me that was unique, Los Angeles County and the city of Los Angeles have programs in our neighborhood parks. And I was raised by the LA Parks and Recreation, where the first thing I ever did was rhythm class. I was 3 years old, and they would put on a march, and tell us what a march was in two. 1, 2, 1, 2, and they give us claves, maracas, tambourines, little drums, little finger cymbals,
I
and
heard
we would
those.
walk in a circle around to a march. Then it would turn into a waltz. Then we would sit down and sing. I looked so forward to that from the time I was 3 in through high school. I was an avid participant in all the programs that the city of Los Angeles offered us because there were bus trips that would take us to the LA Zoo. We got to see the Dodgers 2 or 3 times during the summer, and we would get on the bus, and from El Sereno they would take us to City Terrace, to Maravilla, to all these different locations before we ended up at Dodger Stadium. And all of us on the bus were treated to a Dodger dog, a Coke, and a seat in the direct sunlight.
I've been there, done that.
But what was so beautiful about that, Mark, is when I was with Los Angeles Opera, I had a chance 3 times to sing the national anthem,
Wow. And Dodger Stadium?
Dodger Stadium. And there I was with my 11-year-old son standing by my side singing the national anthem. And I leaned over to him and I said, Mijo, you see those seats way up there? That's how I met the Dodgers.
Wow, wow, wow. So when you were listening to that music that you were describing, was there also Mexican music being played in the house? Was there rock and roll being listened to?
The bit closest to Mexican music was Trio Los Ponchos, so I know a lot of boleros.
Hmm. What about rock and roll, rhythm and blues, any of that?
Rock and roll, I would say we were a Beatles household.
Good.
So not Rolling Stones, but the Beatles. And we listened to a lot of East L.A. music, like the Midnighters
Yeah.
and um Los Lobos, but doing, of course, Richie Valens, but it was mostly the middle of the road, the oh, what was the guy's name from American Bandstand?
Dick Clark.
Dick Clark, those hits, because in our day it was expensive to buy a record, so we listened to the radio, and we were mostly tuned to KRLA, KHJ 93,
And
KHJ,
KFWB.
AFWB. At that time, it was music.
Yeah.
Well, those are the radio stations we had in our
So
car.
you were listening to everything, but
The
what was
top
your
40.
favorite growing up? When you were, say, a teenager, what were you drawn to? Was it opera already or no?
Oh, no, I never learned opera until I was in an opera. The first opera I ever saw was Carmen, and I was Carmen.
That's crazy.
You're telling me. I gotta tell you, my teacher tricked me into doing an opera audition. This is before I got into King and I with Mr. Brenner. And she told me I was in a band and we did dance music. And I loved it because my boyfriend was the guitarist. So we traveled, they called it the Northwest Circuit. But Mark, it was hysterical. We did Holiday Inns in Missoula and we did Sacramento, these little Trail, British Columbia. And there was a headliner named Alex, and we were called Apricot Brandy. And he did a 15-minute show, like a David Cassidy kind of show. And then we did dance music after. So I love Doobie Brothers because we did those, a little Genesis, Phil Collins, and I think you could move to. Um, but I lost my voice singing in nightclubs. So I went to my friend said it's because you don't have a voice teacher. So I went to a teacher and I was with her for a couple of months. And she said, you should go see this doctor, Dr. Van Grove. And I thought he's going to look at my voice. And I sang the one aria I knew. And my teacher had said, that's like therapy. Like for a sports person, they do physical therapy with their body. I'm going to give you therapy for your voice. And I sang the song for him. He said, good, you're cast. And I said, excuse me? And he says, yes, I'd like you to come and sing Carmen for me in Arkansas.
And
She
at
said,
that point, had you had any opera training?
I had studied with this lady for 2 months.
That's not too much.
And she said, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. What kind of doctor are you? He said, I'm a doctor of music. This is an audition. And I'm casting you as the title role of in my opera. So I got to sing 3 operas that season, and it was in Inspiration Point Fine Arts Colony, and it was performance and training.
Mhm.
And I got to learn 3 operas. I got to sing in French, which was great. I love foreign languages. And that was officially my first start in opera was doing this. And it scared me to death, so I quit.
Really?
It's terrifying. There are traditions in opera. It's sort of like, when someone is singing gospel or contemporary musical theater and they're riffing all over the place. I had no idea how intimidating it would be to sing with an orchestra, to sing in a foreign language, to tell a story. It was terrifying.
I was going to say that you obviously did you sing Italian opera?
I sang Italian a lot, but my favorite language to sing in and that also served my voice the best was French and Russian opera. I did a ton of Mozart, but Mozart was the most intimidating because Mozart is for musicians. You have to be a really good musician to sing that kind of specificity. And I didn't know how to do that. And the drag is I kept on auditioning, but I had a regular job. I was working as business manager at the John Tracy Clinic by USC. It's for preschool deaf children and their parents. And I never thought I would sing as a professional career. It was too scary. So I worked at John Tracy Clinic and just sang. And I didn't want to go back to the band because the band disbanded. They got in a car accident and we didn't have the band anymore. But that's what I thought I would do. I thought I'd go back and maybe sing in a band um, but I had a full-time job. And then an audition for King and I in La Mirada came up. And I thought, I'm really perfect for this part. Let me see what happens. And I got cast. So I got bit.
As far as myself with opera, I've only been to, I believe, one opera in my life. And I think it was with a school. I think it was when I was at East L.A. College in the late 60s, could have been a little after. But it was The Ballad of Baby Doe with Beverly Sills.
Oh yeah. Wow. You saw it?
I saw it, yeah. And we're
Wow.
talking about, and I looked it up, Beverly Sills, they say her prime was between 1958 and 1969. I graduated from East LA College in 69, so it must have been with the school that we did a field trip. But I saw that, yeah, and I noticed she was a great, obviously, superstar kind of opera singer.
Her technique was so perfect. They called her bubbles. Notes sounded like little bubbles, just one after the other. She was known for, there's a style of opera called bel canto that has a lot of fioratura, which means flowering. So it's where instead of singing a simple phrase, you add your own notes to it to make it more your own, and that's called coloratura. And she was one of the great coloraturas of the 20th century for sure. And Baby Doe that was great that was something that you went to see. That is the story of Horace Tabor and his second wife. They called her Baby Doe.
Mm,
And it was about when the United States literally switched from the silver basis for our currency to gold.
mm,
And Horace was invested in silver, so he lost everything. And I've done that opera before with the original gentleman who did Horace Tabor. You probably saw Richard Fredericks do Horace Tabor,
mhm.
and I was the wife. And the coolest thing about that? The wife for reals. Augusta Tabor was from Pasadena and she died in Pasadena.
Hmm.
Isn't that fascinating?
Small world.
Really
The
small
only
world.
other one, would you consider this an opera? I'm asking you. I forgot what year it was, but on Broadway I saw Les Mis, and that's kind of operatic, right? Would you call that an opera?
No, that's definitely musical theater. It's the vocal style that determines what is an opera and what is
But
not.
it seemed like it to me because the songs were very kind of operatic to me.
Yes, they
And I
are.
didn't understand a word they were saying, so I was bored shitless. I was,
Oh
yeah, it's like
no.
I didn't understand one word they were singing. And were they singing in English?
Oh
I couldn't even tell.
no. That's not good because
Yeah.
that like some of the shows that I do now, because I started off in musical theater and I've come back to doing things in musical theater because I love singing in English. Giancarlo Menotti, my friend, the composer, he wrote his operas in English. But if you're not understanding the words, then everything is lost.
And it seemed like an opera to me because, a lot of musical theater, there's a lot of talk and dialogue. Then they burst into a song. This seemed like it was all singing.
It is all singing. It has that form, but it still isn't an opera
Yeah.
because of the vocal technique.
Mhm.
Um, while you can have, for example, Carmen, there's no one who would doubt that Carmen is an opera, but Carmen has dialogue. So they call it opera comique, but it's still an opera. People have tried to recreate it, like there was an all black version called Carmen Jones.
I've heard of that. Yes.
Oh, Harry Belafonte was the Don Jose, and I don't know, I don't think it was Lena Horne, but they've tried different ways to make it a more accessible or more contemporary, but it still takes an operatic voice to sing over a 60 or 70 piece orchestra.
Mhm.
And I just like to tell people one of the reasons why opera is unique is opera singers do not use microphones.
Yes.
So we have these orchestras that are gigantic and we sing the way we do because our body is an instrument in the orchestra.
Mhm.
As opposed to musical theater, you can rely on the nuance that you can achieve with a microphone.
Right, right. So in the opera world, are there many Latinos, Latinas? What would you say the percentage that you've run into in the opera world?
Early on, I would say in the late 80s, the most famous one, of course, was Plácido.
Right.
But there were many, but Mexican opera singers were rather unique, but there were many. There was an amazing tenor, Raúl Hernández. Then there was Ramón Vargas, also from Mexico. Um, oh my goodness, I'm blanking now.
Now, what about Latin Americans? Are there many Latin Americans?
Oh, Luis Lima. Oh my gosh, Luis. He was the most adorable. My debut at San Diego Opera, we were doing Tales of Hoffman, and Luis was from Mexico City. And just beautiful, beautiful. Oh, am I lying? Or is he from Bolivia? I don't know, but it seemed, I don't remember now, but it seemed that there were tenors, lots of tenors. From Puerto Rico, there was a fabulous, fabulous bass named Justino Diaz. And then there was wonderful, he smoked a cigar. I can't from Pablo, he was so famous. Everyone knew him. And everyone knew Pablo, but I can't remember his last name, bass baritone. We'd be walking the streets. I was singing with Opera San Juan in Puerto Rico. We were doing Butterfly. And he would say, my friend, to all these people walking down the street and would wave to him, my friend. He was so cute. He had no idea who they were, but he loved them. So but from East L.A., the only one during my time was a tenor, Mexican American. His name was Eduardo Villa. And Eduardo was just the sweetest man in the world. I was able to do one Carmen with him, but he ended up, because it was hard to do opera in the United States. Eduardo moved to Europe and he had no problem getting work there. So he worked there for a long, long time. I mean, decades, which is why I think our paths never crossed or didn't cross until later on.
Mhm. It says on your resume that you were a member of the Yuval Sharon's avant-garde opera company. What would be avant-garde opera? Sounds like
I'm still
fun.
a member. I am laughing because, you know, being from East LA, I went to Cal State LA. I went to Mission High School. My friends went to Wilson. My parents were from here. The world felt very small. And I always wanted to see what was beyond our four walls. And the thing that allowed me to do that was opera. I know it sounds like it's a an odd way to answer the question. What was it exactly? Tell me again what the question was.
Well, avant-garde,
Oh, there we go.
it's got to be a more
That's it. So this is
progressive,
why,
different kind of opera.
thank you. So the reason that I left was to be able to sing a geisha from a Japanese opera, to be able to sing a nightclub singer or a politician or be something beyond what I felt were my limiting opportunities in East LA. And yet I always seem to come back to being the Latina in the opera. Even when I did Madama Butterfly, I was the maid. I kept saying, I'm the maid again here. I try to go to
Oh,
Nagasaki and
typecasting. Oh,
I'm
no.
the maid.
Oh,
In all the Mozart operas that I did, the most of the time I was Marcellina. But then they're Spanish. So I
right.
was still a
Right. I
Spanish
should have
person.
said stereotype casting.
Oh my gosh. But I laughed so much because some of the, and Carmen, of course, even there was an opera that I did called La Favorite that I did in Montpellier in southern France. And my character's name was Leonora Guzman.
Oh, really?
So I seem to get a lot of these roles that were from East LA. And the one that you're mentioning right now, I'm a member of it's called the industry. Yuval Sharon's the industry. I'm a member of the company. And the one that we are the best known for, which is why I keep on laughing, was Hopscotch. Hopscotch is loosely based on the title of that book of the same name. And I played Lucha. And Lucha, when she was going to her quinceañera, she was in a car accident with her parents and they both were killed. So she has been growing up since she was 15 on her own, trying to reject her Latino heritage. She blames the quinceañera on her parents' death. And what was so unique about this, there were 9 luchas, and we sang the work inside limousines. There were 65 limousines that went throughout Los Angeles, and there were 3 routes. You could be on the red, the yellow, or the green. I was Lucha, the elder, the oldest, who had seen how life had progressed. And I had fallen in love with in my youth. There were 3 of us. We had 2 friends and me. One helped me, he played guitar, and we did puppet shows. That was our thing. And then my husband was a writer, and he disappeared one day. So this story that we were presenting in these limousines was insane. There were 120 principal artists in these dang limousines. There was one scene in a Jeep on the LA River. And I would sing every hour for 9 minutes for however many people could hear us within that 9 minutes, take a 3-minute break and start again. I did more than 250 rotations of this scene where I was on the telephone speaking to my younger self who was in a different car somewhere else in Los Angeles. And these five people, it was amazing. The different one time it was my family. So I had my son, his wife, and three friends, and me. And we're all scrunched in, and I'm doing my little song while we're driving through Chavez Ravine. That was my route. Another time it was me and James Franco. Bradley
Oh,
Whitford was in my car. Mark Swed was in my car, the classical vocal critic from the classical musical critic from LA Times. It was unique, beautifully choreographed, and so satisfying. I know we haven't touched on this, but I did have a TV show on PBS talking about Los Angeles. And one of the cool things that my relationship with PBS SoCal allowed us to have them do a documentary on the making of hopscotch, and it's available.
really?
It's really lovely to see it. And it is hopscotch. I have 1,000 golden moments outside of being nervous for my entire opera career. Even today, when I sing opera, I'm still nervous. But there were moments where it was pure joy, and hopscotch was pure joy. It
Is it
was
available like on the streaming services like Netflix or anything like that?
the,
YouTube?
I think you can go to the industry because what was really lovely about this production also, there are 36 chapters to hopscotch, performed by all these different artists, dancers, singers, actors. The gentleman who played the guitar and was the music director of the Virgen de Tepeyac that I did for 18 years, he was in one car. I mean, it was crazy. It seems like everyone who, was involved in downtown Los Angeles music was a part of this. So the answer is there's a recording that you can find at theindustry.org, but also you can watch all 36 chapters, and some of them are animated. So that's so fun. And I got to voice over two of the chapters as Lucha. So it's
And you can
beautiful
only watch that where you said there's no other way you can watch it.
because they will never do it again. When you ask Yuval, why don't you do it in Chicago? He's, I'd rather die. I think it aged him like, 100 years. And this director, Yuval Sharon, is the king of avant-garde opera. We did an opera called War of the Worlds on the streets of LA where they remember the old air raid sirens that were around the
Yes.
cities and you get on.
Yes.
They found a way to make the music, the orchestra at Disney Hall pump through these things. So it was the radio show War of the Worlds, but as an opera. It was hysterical. It was so funny. And Sigourney Weaver was the narrator, and Eric Garcetti came on at Disney Hall and said, thanks to the titanium walls here at Disney Hall, because of the architect's vision, we are the only place in Los Angeles that survived. Is that but that's what this company, they
Interesting stuff, I love it.
really interesting. And to hear the music was all original, it was in English. I guarantee you understood every word. Because if you don't tell the story, you're not doing your job. And that's a shame. That is a shame. That's one reason why every opera company in the United States has super titles. It's like subtitles above the proscenium in English, so you can understand. When I was in Puerto Rico, they had them in Spanish. So it didn't matter if we were singing in Italian or French or Russian, you could understand what was going on because it's so important. And the difference in just theater and opera. In Madame Butterfly, she says the words in Italian, diedi pianto alla zola, e sai, sui fior mi dà. And she says this when she sees Pink, her husband's boat has returned. And the words say in English are, I have cried a lot into the dirt. And you know what? I got flowers.
Good
But it
accent.
doesn't sound, it's not the same. The words and the music go, diedi pianto la sola e sai, sui fior mi dà. It's it is just so, it's like in Rodgers and Hammerstein when they say, shall we dance on a bright cloud of music? The words and the music together are what make it so special. And that's why people love the genres they love, because they figure out what it is that moves and touches their hearts. What kind of music did you grow up with besides your dad's?
Well, just like you say, KHJ, KFWB, KRLA, I was listening to the hits. But what was great about that era, unlike today, was one radio station would play the Beatles, James Brown, Frank Sinatra, Motown. Everything was there. And so we got all those influences. So
Mm.
that's what I was into. And for me, it was the Beatles, number one. And Bob Dylan was a huge
Oh
influence.
yeah, of
You
course. I
know,
love all those. Bob Dylan, Joan Baez,
Mhm.
Joni Mitchell,
Oh,
beautiful
she's
music.
great. And I like the Motown and James Brown, all that too. And I had bands from the time I was 13 in 1963. So I've been doing it for a long time. But yeah, we had all that to go by. And those are my big influence. And Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills, Nash, I loved all that stuff.
Linda.
Steely Dan, Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah,
To
Jackson
me,
Brown.
they're the greatest sort of pop singer, that she could do beautiful voice, whether she's doing standards or canciones de mi padre, whatever genre, country, she's right on.
Gilbert and Sullivan, she sang Pirates of Penzance
That's
on
right.
Broadway in the movie. You know, my favorite thing about KRLA, I called them up to request Let It Be.
Oh, really?
I did. Remember, you used to call them up and say, hey, play Let
Yeah.
It Be for me. And they'd say, this goes out to Susanna from El Sereno, whatever, right? So I just called up. I was home and I was with my cousin Roberta, and we're just hanging out and we're hitting here. It's ringing and ringing and ringing. The disc jockey answers the phone and says, you won them all. And my cousin went and hands me the phone. And I said, what do you mean I won them all? You won all 27 Beatle albums. You're our grand prize winner for
You
today.
serious? And you got them?
And I'm look, they're right here. They're right here in my,
Unbelievable.
and they included Ram and All Things Must Pass and the
Solo albums, huh?
yeah, all the solo. Imagine all the solo albums.
Great.
The only drag is I love them so much. They're not worth anything to anybody because they're so played. They're used, used, used.
I wore out my first Beatle albums, and I bought them all again in the late 70s. Then I bought them on CD in the late 80s, whatever.
Oh, I don't
So I
blame.
got multiple copies of everything
That's
because I
wonderful.
wore out the first set. Yeah.
That's something only drag about vinyl. Vinyl and VHS wear out. I'm
Yeah.
sure in DVDs they on CDs they can get scratched a little bit and they skip right over. I hate
Yeah.
that. I
True,
just
true, true. Getting back to your resume, your accolades include being a soloist on the Grammy-nominated 2006 recording Carlos Chavez, Volume 3, Best Classical Recording. Talk about that.
oh my gosh. Southwest Chamber Music. We had a mutual friend, Albert Dominguez, who was a fabulous pianist who this is Jeff Vonderschmidt and his beautiful wife, Jan. And Jan played in the Southwest Chamber Music. And they also did unique things in odd places. We did an opera called Savitri, which was a legend from the Rig Veda about a woman named Savitri who was half goddess, half mortal. And we sang it in the Huntington Gardens. Only three people in this ensemble, and death comes for her husband. And she welcomes him, Death, into her home. And Death is so flustered at her generosity that he falls in love with her. It's a beautiful story, but I did that with them. And I've done a couple of things with them, and they just out of the blue said, we're doing this CD and it's got a singer. You want to sing? I said, love to. And they had already won Grammys for volume one and two. Well, the unique thing, it's Carlos Chavez, who was a little known classical musician from Guadalajara. And he was best friends with Lorca and Samuel Barber and all these people who were like these revolutionary thinkers at the time. Um, Llorens, the poet from Puerto Rico, so many people that lived in this little Frida and Diego, this avant-garde
Mhm.
group of people. And I did it. I said yes before I looked at the music. And there were I think there were 9 or 10 songs, and 6 of them were folk songs and beautiful and suited to me just perfectly. And then another like 4 or 5 were avant-garde songs that I felt that I was too scared to do them because I wouldn't be able to hear how the music went. When it's something in simple time, I felt okay. Folk songs, thank God, thank you, Joni Mitchell. I felt like I had a handle on that stuff. So I just called up my friend Alba Quesada. We went to high school together at Mission, and she lived in New York, and she'd been in Phantom for years, but she always wanted to be an opera singer. So she studied. She went to Immaculate Heart College. She went to USC and studied opera and then got into musical theater. I just called her up and said, what do you think? And she said, sure, I'll come do them. She came. They didn't even hear her. They said, okay, why not? And they recorded at Zipper Hall down at Colburn, and we sang these amazing pieces. And that recording they submitted for Grammy consideration, and we got nominated.
All right.
Mark, another golden moment. When you are nominated, they have this big nominees party where all the nominees are there, and they give you a medallion from Tiffany's.
Mm.
So the little blue bag was there, and everybody put their medallions on, and you could bring a guest and they take archival photos. And I'm standing there looking at all these people. And the man next to me said, oh my gosh, I think that's Bono's producer. I said, that's Jesse Norman. And we're looking at these superstars walking by. The producer was I'm sure you would recognize his name. He was from Island Music, and he produced all these great people. He
Was
was
that
with,
Chris Blackwell?
I
Uh,
can't remember. These were the Lifetime Achievement people.
mhm.
So there's Peter, there's Paul, that's Mary, because they were Lifetime Achievements. And he said, you obviously got a nomination. What is your nomination for? And I said, for Best Classical CD. How about you? And he said, the polka. He was a nominee for Best Polka of the Year. Is that funny? His name was Jimmy Sturr, the Polka King, and it was at the Wilshire Bell, and it was just magical. They had fountains of patron, silver and gold spewing out of a fountain. It was, I know that's what it felt like. Now, I think in hindsight, I bet you it was just gold and silver colored water, and they would give you a shot, and it felt like it came from the fountains. Now that I think about it, but it was just magical. It was magical to be there. And the other people who played with us was Tambuco Percussion Ensemble. So it had all this beautiful indigenous instruments that they used to enhance the 16-piece classical um, Southwest chamber music. And they later went on to become cultural ambassadors for United States to Vietnam. Isn't that wild? They actually ended up being in lockdown in Phnom Penh, not Phnom Penh, in Vietnam, this capital of Vietnam.
Saigon or
What
the
I can't remember the name of it out of the top of my head, but they were in lockdown there because they would not let anybody leave.
wow.
It's very interesting. For a year and a half, they were there before they could come home.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. And because we were a Spanish language, we also got nominated for Best Latin Classical CD, which they hold at the Garden, Madison Square Garden. And I was here, so I got to go to the awards here at the Staples. That's was it Staples Center? I think that's where they host them. And then my friend Alba got to go to the one in New York for the Madison Square Garden one. So I always tell young singers, your best friends in high school can be with you for your whole life because you have something inherently in common. And for me and Alba, it was music. And she's still my best friend. I'm going to see her next week.
Yeah, those are great. I got a friend I was in kindergarten with,
Oh my God.
he's a great visual artist, but we've stayed in touch our whole lives. But it's great people that you know from grammar school, junior high. Like when I went to that thing at Garfield Sunday, it was so great. We were talking, remember this teacher, remember that teacher? We probably named 20 teachers that we remember from junior high, telling stories about them getting swatted or whatever it is. But
I know,
we only
right?
have
Getting
that in common with
spotted.
those few people, that are still surviving. It was great.
It's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
that arc of friendship and legacy.
Yes.
Remember, they remember you and they see what you've become. I'm sure they're so proud of you. Did you get to play?
No, but they asked me to speak. I just
Oh,
did a
of
little
course you did.
speech. But speaking of old friends, I just did a show at La Plaza de Cultura de Artes just Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And I had 14 musicians and singers backing me up. And it was the first time I ever did a show of my whole so-called career because my first band, Mark and the Escorts, in 1963 to 1966, we did two records. And I had three other original members, and we did those. And then my 70s band, I had three original members, and we did a couple of songs from that. And then another band came out, and we did some of my later Latin rock stuff. We did two of my dad's songs, uh, and we did about a dozen songs, and it was unbelievable to have like 14 people coming and going off stage, three background singers dancing. It was amazing. You'll see some of the videos if you're interested.
Oh, that sounds
Okay.
great.
But I just
Oh,
did it. Yeah. But that drummer for my first band, I've known him since I was 9 years old in my
oh
neighborhood.
my God.
Yeah. And he's still one of my great friends. But when you know people that long, there's nothing like it. Yeah. It's a blessing.
It is a
So
blessing.
let's talk about your one woman show. Don't be afraid, it's just opera.
That's
I
hysterical.
like the
I
title.
can't believe it. I'm glad. Thank you. I know it's my resume now because I'm a senior citizen. It's in 2-point font. So you know how that goes. But
Yes.
that was another um it's a golden moment that's lasted for decades. When I got into opera, as I've said, I knew nothing. But what I did discover was what I've told you, that connection with your heart. And I wanted to share that with other people. Being from East LA, my family's sort of mantra was if you don't know something, just be quiet and listen and see if somehow you can have input. Otherwise, my father's favorite saying was, it's rather to stay silent and have people think you're a fool
Then to
than to
prove it.
open your mouth and prove you are. So I never wanted to ask questions. And now I know that asking questions is the only way you can learn.
And listening.
So and I know that people were dismissive about, opera singers singing in the that it was some old crazy ladies like screaming.
With
And
the Viking horns.
yes, so I wanted to yep, that's it. I mean, so I decided I would always tell people it's just opera. And the reason that we do it this way is because of the orchestra. We have to be able to have the power to sing for 3 hours. So it's like doing a marathon. You don't, you you do it differently than if you were running for 100 meters. A marathon is to the 100-meter as opera is to pop. If you're singing with a microphone, you sing a different way. And but the foundation is to tell a story. Well, no matter what kind of music you're doing, even if there's no words, even if there's no vocalist, you're telling a story. You're playing it because words aren't enough. That was the origin of Don't Be Afraid, It's Just Opera. And it's funny because it's another your brother's story. He invited me to appear at the opening of the Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque. So I went with him and I sang on the main stage with all the people. I think your dad was there too. All the people who were winners of that calendar. But
Mm.
then I got to do my show for the kids and I would teach them to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star like an opera singer with dynamics and with great diction, and to remember that it was not just words. You're talking to a star. How I wonder what you are. So we're in the middle of the show, and a little boy stands up in the middle of the audience. And I couldn't ignore him. He was in the middle of the audience and he just stood up. And I said, "Sweetheart, can I help you?" I think I got it. Forte is when the Lobos are winning. And I said, "That's exactly right." And you're saying, "Yay for the Lobos." That was their big team. And I said, "But piano is when the Lobos are winning, but they're playing the company from Utah. They're playing with a team from Utah, and you're in Utah, and you don't want to be rude. So you go,
Pianissimo.
exactly. So you don't want to be rude. But that show evolved. For every year I found something different until it became I'm on the roster of the Music Center Education Division, along with tons of other 60 other artists who perform at the Music Center. And we go out to the schools and teach them different things, teach them to dance, teach them to sing, whatever the specialty is. And I teach them how to sing like opera singers and how, and I will tell you, I was at 32nd Street Magnet School and KCET came and did a profile on me, and they asked a little boy named Ricky, "What did you think you were going to get?" And he said, "I thought I was going to get this boring old lady who screamed really loud." And what did you get? Well, we got this cool lady who screamed really loud, but it was cool screaming.
What more
It's
compliment could
the
you get?
best review ever.
There you go.
So I love that show.
Amazing. As far as awards here, it says your honors include the 2012 Hispanic Scholarship Foundation's Mentor of the Year Award, the Spirit of California Award from the Latino Legislative Caucus, the 2013 Mexican American Foundation Woman of the Year Award, and the 2015 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Nederlander organization. Not pretty nice.
There's Emmy #1 right behind. I'm gonna get it so you could see
Okay.
it because she's awesome. Ah, there she is.
Ooh,
Isn't she beautiful?
yes, she
And on
is.
the bottom, there's an inscription that says, "Me or my heirs cannot sell this." There's a $25,000 fine, and the object will be repossessed if
Wow.
we try to sell it. And having 4 nominations and 2 of these has been just such a joy because I still do my show. When I do my show, I'll take this with me and I let the teachers and the parents and the children hold her. Because I got this award, I was already a senior citizen. To have something like this come my way at this stage of my life was such proof that you always have to keep aspiring. Your dad was a perfect example of this. When you guys were at the Bastille, and he said at the end, having his standing ovations, and I'm 82 years old.
I was in Paris, yeah. I was on
Oh,
stage with him,
that's
yeah.
something.
Yeah. In fact, the last time I performed with him, he was 86
Oh
and he
my.
was out here in Palm Springs. And then I think he did one more appearance after that. He sang one song with a mariachi in Tucson, but I mean, literally almost right to the end, he was still performing.
It's so it it's beyond, I don't even know how to say it. It's what connects me to the world for sure. And the awards you mentioned, the Nederlanders is this award was presented at the high school musical awards, and Corbin Bleu was my co-host that year. So it was especially poignant for me because that was the stage where I did King and I. And Corbin went to the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, where I worked for 7 years. I worked there for 8 years and then again for 5 more years as the opera director. But while I was there, I didn't know this at the time, but the high school is on the campus of Cal State LA. So when I looked at the address for the interview and I went, I thought, my gosh, I'm here, I'm home. I went to school here. I didn't know that there was a high school here. But what I also didn't know is that at the time, the best professionals in their respective fields were teaching at this high school. So we had Don Martin, who created his own genre of dance. We had Lois Hunter, who was part of this amazing tap troupe. We had ballerinas from Nederlanders and ABT and um, from Diavolo Dance Company. We had in our jazz department, our jazz orchestra was conducted by Jason Goodman, who was Michael Bublé's conductor, and Dan Castro, who played with all the famous people. I mean, Alan Montner, the artistic director of the La Mirada Whittier Symphony. These people were the teachers who were teaching grades 9 through 12 their craft. And it was amazing and it was free. It was a
Mhm.
free public high school. And when my son decided to go to school there, he was at Polytechnic here in Pasadena. And he decided, no, I want to be a singer. I want to be a musician. And he ended up going to this school and he ended up winning, which is how I got the Mentor of the Year award, the Gates Millennium Scholarship. Number one, when he went to Loxa, I had never heard of it. So I made it my mission to tell everyone. I went school to school to school. I visited every middle school in LAUSD in the Los Angeles County Office of Education District to tell them this is an amazing school. It had a 98% graduation rate to the best universities and colleges, but also to the conservatories, Juilliard, Berkeley, New England Conservatory, all the best schools and scholarships for 150 kids. We had over $6 million in scholarships. And my son's, the Gates Millennium, it paid for 4 years at any university that accepted him. So he went to the University of Michigan was there for 4 years in musical theater, and I paid nothing, nothing. It was
Wow.
amazing. So I made it my point, my purpose to go and tell everyone in our neighborhood, here, you want to go to college? Let me help you get there. Here are magic words. And the two most amazing words that I will share with your audience are the words awards adjustment. So when you go to a school and you're accepted and they send you your awards, you have the right to say, may I have an awards adjustment? And they will send you back more money.
Key words, don't forget those words.
And you keep asking until they say final offer. And it's amazing. There's so much information in the world that we just don't know about. And because I never graduated from Cal State LA, my doctorate is an honorary doctorate from Oxy. I have like 300 undergraduate units, and I would say 200 of them are in music. There's a red flag, so I can't do any more music, but uh I always wanted to go to an East Coast school. I would have loved to go to Dartmouth or Stanford or Princeton or any of those schools, and I had no idea how to get there. So, Loxa helped me help students discover their path. How can we find an education that will serve me and won't put my parents in decades of
Debt.
debt? Yeah. So that's why the Hispanic scholarship, I was pretty tireless about doing this.
Especially these days, it's obscene. My ex's daughter from a previous marriage, she just graduated with a master's from Berkeley, and she's $150,000 in debt. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And what's even more crazy is that there are college counselors should have the information to say, go to the Hispanic Scholarship Fund and see what they offer. Whenever I go to do my shows, if we have talkbacks with the audience, I always tell the young people to come and talk to me. And I have the Abuela's Guide to College Financing
Right?
because
And
there's
college is
way.
so expensive. When I went to Cal State LA, it was like $200 a quarter or something. And
Oh no,
that's
it was cheaper than that. It was $200 a year. Because when I went to Cal State LA, it was $60 a quarter for a full.
what year was that?
It was 1970. Blah, blah, blah.
I was there in 77, 78. I just remember it was just a few $100s. Books were
240
cheap.
for the year.
Was it
240 for the
really?
whole year. Yeah, because there's four quarters.
Well, it was not that much money. And then the books were really cheap or you could rent them. Now, like a book is $300. It's
That's
just obscene.
crazy. It's crazy. But there are ways, and if you are undeclared, one of the biggest ways is to set a goal for yourself that you will finish junior college in 2 years and then transfer. I'm on the board of mentors at USC, and we've discovered that transfer students have the higher percentage of graduation than even 4 years. If you go there all 4 years, the chances are good that you will drop out. But if you only go for 2 years,
Yeah, that's
you're not
true.
going to
I
waste your
was I
money.
was a transfer student from East LA College.
There you go.
Mm.
There you go. So that's what all those, and the California Hispanic Caucus Award, beautiful award. It's a Yaqui Indian symbol in iron. It's in iron. And the other winner of that year was Kane from on Mission Road, they have all those auto body shops.
Mhm.
Well, he took his cardboard boxes and made an arcade called Kane's Arcade when he was 8 years old. And it was fully functioning, and he would raise money for people in this little arcade when he was 8 years old.
Wow.
And he became famous because for a while, no one came. And one of the customers saw him waiting for one of the body shop people saw him waiting for customers, and there were lines of people waiting. He would push the tickets out himself when you won. It was so adorable. Oh, and Gronk won that year too.
Oh, the artist.
I love Gronk. Yeah,
Yes.
he did the costumes and set design for a show that I was in with LA Opera. Really, eh, Mark, I have to say, so many things about my career were terrifying. And now that I'm not like staying awake at night, freaked out about tomorrow's rehearsal, I think of the amazing, amazing people who I got to work with. Just phenomenal um, artists who I have just been so blessed. And whether it's my naivete like Washington Opera, or I think they might have liked working with me for that reason. I did go back and learn how to read music, by the way,
Mm.
because it's really, really important. In 2008, I went back to Cal State LA and I took orchestration and arranging, so I would know all the instruments and know how to tell which clefs I would, they were performing in. But it has been one of the just ongoing amazement of my life. Oh, you just made me think of one crazy but perfect example. When I did Goya at the Kennedy Center, my character, literally the orchestra went bum 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 bum, and I came in. So maybe 8 measures, places they call. And I run up the steps, and there is a man who will not let me pass. And I held his arm and I said, "You don't understand. I need to get to the stage. I'm the first person who sings as soon as they open the curtains. It's me." And a woman went, "I don't believe they will let you go by, let you in until I've been seated." It was the Queen of Spain.
Oh my God. Excuse me.
I know. Oh my
So what
gosh.
happened?
Oh, I had to wait. And she was seated, and the man said, and I went by and took places, and I made it there in plenty of time. But things like that,
Yes,
Mark,
yes, yes, yes.
I'm not a household name. In the world of opera, I've created so many amazing roles. They just did the first production of Florencia in el Amazonas, which is an opera by Daniel Catan based on Garcia Marquez. They did it at the Metropolitan Opera. And I created the role of Paula, amazing role in Spanish, an opera in Spanish. And Daniel was from Mexico City, and he passed away about 8 years ago. But to see his work and a role that I created. And there's so many, the Duchess of Alba in Italian, the beautiful Florencia, Lucia in Hopscotch. They literally go on and on. I was in Michael Nyman's Facing Goya, and we toured all over, finally ended in Singapore. I've seen the world because of opera, that heart's desire that I had to take a chance, even though I was scared, has served me so much. And then to come full circle and to be hired as the Dowager Empress in Anastasia, a musical, and Lin-Manuel's Abuela Claudia in the Heights. Mark, it's been an amazing ride.
It's fun to look back. I do it myself, I just
Right? All the bands you were in, all the
people I got
musicians.
to record with and play with, and some famous, some not, but great. But it's amazing as you look back.
So many phenomenal experiences creating art that somehow reflect in your life. I know that I use when I do the cool thing, Abuela Claudia, the Dowager Empress, they're both grandmothers. And this year I'm going to go back to New York because my son's having his first child, my son and his beautiful wife. And I think, oh my gosh, art is is going to be inspiring life because I'm going to be a real abuela, a real nana, a real grandmama. And I love that you and I are still loving our job.
I'm just as on fire as ever, I wake up every day excited,
What's next?
inspired.
I'm so happy for you. It's really fun. It's really
And
fun.
I love doing this show. I've done 60 episodes. I mean, it's fantastic, very satisfying.
I'm so glad to hear that. Look at all the people, the 60 artists that you've gotten to meet. It's
And delve
fantastic.
deep into their stories. So you add all those stories together, it's quite a treasure chest there,
It really is. Well, I'm really grateful because for me, if it hadn't been for El Sereno, for LA, I am such a proud Angelina. My grandparents are buried at the San Gabriel Mission. My parents were born here. And Go Blue. I'm a Dodger fan, like down to my core.
Yeah, baby.
It's it's a real blessing to bring the world that I have experienced to bring it home here to an area that I'm from and still connect with my beautiful friends from high school, from grammar school, our music teacher from my son's grammar school. She just passed away. And to be part of that music community, neighborhood, national, international, it blows my mind.
So is there something we missed that you'd like to talk about, or you think that might do it?
I'm looking forward. There's a couple of things I'm looking forward to. On Sunday, there's this amazing orchestra that I'm performing with called Mesto. Nabil Azam is the direct music director, and I'll be singing Habanera. I've been singing the song for 50 years, I think, but I'll be singing Habanera, and what they do during where the chorus normally sings, they play with Middle Eastern instruments. So these musicians are classical musicians, and then they add the tabla and all these beautiful string instruments, something that looks like an accordion, and they play that during the middle, and we end up going back to the classical version. I'll be at the Broad there this Sunday. Um, but I also, when the Olympics come, I have this dream. I have three song cycles that I would like to perform at the Ibel. One of them is based on the works of Jose Montoya, who was
Poet.
Richard Montoya's father. He was the
Mhm.
poet laureate, and they're called Canciones del Barrio. And I did a recording of those, and you would love them so much. There's this one line in his poetry where he says, all the viejitos would sit at the back of the church because they'd been excommunicated because when the priest said, will you go and sin no more? And they said, probably not.
Maybe.
Isn't that great? And they're just beautiful. And then there is another amazing, amazing song cycle that I did at with the American Symphony that's called Nueve Cantos Antillanos. And they're all about love and loss and renewal in the Caribbean, also in Spanish. And then this fantastic new composer, he's brilliant. His name is Lalo. His son's name is Lalo. His name is Nicholas Lel Benavides. And he has written the opera Dolores. He wrote the opera Pepito that they did at the Kennedy Center about a dog who people thought was stupid, but the dog only spoke Spanish. So he did it. No one knew until a young lady went in and said, bueno, ven para acá. ¿Hablas español? ¿Hablas español? Te adoro. It was so adorable. But he also just wrote for me, which I love this, a new work called Caravana de Mujeres, Caravan of Women. And it's based on a true story in Colombia, and it's a comedy. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a comedy, but it is. These women, it's a true story. His wife works for the LA Times. These women see the horrible dysfunction with the gangs and cartels and all the things in Colombia. So they go to Spain, where Spanish widowers are looking for wives who speak Spanish. So every weekend they get on these buses and they go to these dances. So all these viejos are dancing with each other to this wonderful music, eating wonderful food. And it's like a prom for senior citizens. Well, Nick has written this opera, but he also is hoping to commission our poet laureate of Los Angeles from a couple years ago, Raul Hernandez Jr. He has written poetry, Mark, that makes you so proud to be an Angelino. And we're hoping that he will agree. So I hope you're listening to this, Raul. We're hoping that we can do a third cycle based on this. And his company that he has worked with so much is Get Lit. Do you know that great organization?
No.
Well, it's beautiful. It helps kids write poetry. So how cool would it be to wind up this evening? Each cycle is about 15 to 20 minutes long, but wind up the evening with his poetry being put to music by Los Angeles-based artist Nicholas Lel Benavides, and to have children reading their own poetry about what life is like in Los Angeles.
Fantastic.
That's my story. That's todo.
That's it, and you're sticking to it,
I'm sticking to it. How about
huh?
you, Mark? What's next for you?
Well, I just did that concert, which I was preparing for all summer, and I was very happy with it. The next thing I'm doing that's actually related to the exhibit, A Great Day in East L.A., which is at La Plaza, which I was one of the curators, and my partner Piero Giunti and I started the whole project 10 years ago, interviewing
Wow.
people, taking portrait photographs of all these musicians, and it culminated in this exhibit, and it's going to continue after this. But related to this, and I'm kind of happy about this and proud about it, is that when we first started to make this exhibit, I said, it would be really great if we had a portion, a little something in the museum that referred to the Vietnam War and how it broke up so many bands in East LA in the 60s, how so many musicians wound up in Vietnam. When they got back, they never continued their careers. They all are still suffering from PTSD. And so, as it turned out, there was no room and it didn't happen. So, I had mentioned to one of the people there that, I'm disappointed that that didn't happen. So they said, well, maybe we could do a panel discussion. And I said, if we do, I'd like to be the narrator. So anyway, it's going to happen on November 6th. And I already put together a panel of three musicians. One of them is the lead singer of El Chicano
Oh,
that went to
wow.
Vietnam. The other one was the lead singer of the Blendells, who had a big hit in 1965 out of East LA. And he became a Green Beret, and he went through a lot of stuff. And a third one had a major record deal, was playing on the Sunset Strip, and like a couple of months later, he's in the jungle. And he wrote a book about it, and it's fantastic. It's called Raw Man, which is not, what's it? Nam War backwards, Raw Man. But it's a fantastic book. I think it even was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize or something. But he's on the panel. So I got those three panelists, and I've invited a lot of other Vietnam vets. And me, I just got lucky. I had a 2S deferment when I was at East LA College. Then I dropped out of school. I didn't go back to Cal State till 6 years later. But then I was 1A for a year. I could have been drafted. So for 1 year, I was playing in my bands and going to school and wondering what's going to happen. And then the lottery came out, and I got a really high impossible number, 324, which meant they would never get to me. So I was free after that. So I just lucked out.
Oh, wow.
So
I remember that.
I feel like whether you're against a war like Vietnam War, Afghanistan, you still have to be for the troops. You still have to be for the veterans. So that's what I'm about. And so I feel really proud that this is happening kind of because it was my idea eventually. I mean, originally. So
Right.
that's happening on November 6th at the Plaza.
Oh,
I'm not sure
oh,
exactly
how
all the
wonderful.
details yet, but that's the next thing I'm seriously working on to put together.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I hope I get to see it if I'm in town. I'll be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Sounds
And I'm
wonderful.
always recording or doing these shows and, always doing something musically related. And that makes me happy. And that's why I'm still enthusiastic and excited and feeling youthful.
I totally get it and I totally concur. And nowadays when I'm doing a show and I see these young singers, the one thought that goes through my mind is the music industry is in good hands. It has a future. And the other thing that goes through my head is I'm so happy I don't have to do what they do.
Yes, 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 yes. And I also do a lot of presentations. I did the one at the neighborhood music school. Last week, I did one at the Homestead Museum in City of Industry. And I just got an email yesterday. They want me to possibly do some presentations at high schools and junior highs. And I
Oh,
love that.
wow.
So, I love doing that too. It's a way of giving back and keeping the history alive with the young people.
Yes, of course, of course. That sounds wonderful. Well, I wish you all the best. I'm so happy to see you again. Paths will cross.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
whether it's through neighborhood music school or just through your work at as an artist with the many venues here in our beautiful home.
Yes. And thank you very much for doing this. And it was fantastic and very beautiful.
Oh, well, God bless you and cut everything out that sucks.
Yes. I'm a master editor,
I love that.
but fear not. It'll be very
Okay.
smooth and, you know,
Drop me a note when you're ready to post it so I can have a look.
I'll send you the link as soon as it's up and we'll go from there.
Oh, you're awesome. All
Thank
righty.
you.
Bye, Mark. It's so good to
Thanks.
see you. Take
See you.
care.
Bye-bye. Take
Thank you
care.
again. Thank you. Bye bye.